Uniform Show, episode 20. We've talked about this many times, dedicating an episode to coaches. The appearance, or even you could say the uniform of the coach, has changed over the years, over the decades, even from a few decades ago. It's certainly become far more casual, like many areas in life. So it's worth looking back to see what the coaches looked like some 50, 60 years ago and where we are today.
Right, we want to appreciate the changes we've seen in coaches since we've been paying attention to sports, and before, the different outfits, uniforms, accessories that have been available and used, and many are the same and similar, and some are very unique.
So let's begin where we should. Vince Lombardi, the man that the Super Bowl trophy is named after, and one of the looks I think of is the hat. You don't see men wearing hats anymore, and that's one of the first thoughts I have of Lombardi, the hat.
Yeah, the hat for sure, with the suit and the tie, and the glasses with the thick rims.
So here's another picture of Lombardi and also Hank Stram. They were the coaches on each side in Super Bowl I. You have the suits, you have the ties, and let's say from the beginning, this is something I would love to have return to the NFL.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have to go as far as the hat.
Yeah.
But the suits and the ties, is that professional? Is that not the look of class?
Yeah.
And we don't have that anymore. It is a thing of the past, but a look that's always been proven to be a winner.
Yeah.
And then there's Don Shula, and we're going to talk about Don Shula for a few minutes here because of how long he coached in the league. And he started off, many wouldn't remember this, he actually began as a coach with the Colts before he was coaching the Dolphins for decades. And he also had the suit and tie to begin his career. As an NFL coach, not an AFL coach.
Yeah.
This is more his classic look that he had when he was with the Dolphins during their they went to 3 straight Super Bowls, but then they had the perfect season that no one's ever been able to match, and you could already see that the styles were becoming a little more casual.
Right.
Than they were in the 60s.
Right. White, being in a warm weather climate, short sleeve, a little bit more open neck.
And then you have that little helmet there.
Yeah. Small but very nice and appreciated.
And then we see him much later in his coaching career as well.
Sweater with dress shirt with collar, and then the thicker jacket, the turtleneck shirt.
And he's one of the most interesting ones for me because when you just look at his career at the Dolphins, you're saying, well, we started with these pictures from about the early 70s, and then we're going through the 80s into the 90s.
Yeah.
And you want to talk about changes in clothes and styles. He went through many in his career. I would say more than any head coach in NFL history. And then when we're talking about the NFL, is obviously the most interesting of the three because they have coaches more freedom, other than, let's say, that Super Bowl era that we started off with, that the beginning of the Super Bowls. They've had more freedom to dress in different ways, let's say.
Right.
And then there's Tom Landry, that he had his classic look because he held on to the hats throughout his career, the suit and tie and the hats. And I especially love this picture because it is a step back into history, not only with him, but you see how the Cowboys uniform has changed itself in more subtle ways, not major ways compared to so many teams today, but the socks are different, the shoulder and sleeve coming further down.
Right.
Then this is in Texas Stadium, which I dearly miss.
Nice and bright.
And then you can even look back, CBS Live and in color. CBS Sports in the background. There's a lot to appreciate about this picture.
Yeah.
And here's Landry again. This was in their first Super Bowl victory the Cowboys had, and he would have been facing Don Shula. It was Super Bowl, the 1971 season. So this would have been in 1972 as pictured, outside in the sun. Very nice color matchup between the Dolphins and the Cowboys.
Yeah.
And this is a game we've referred to in other various episodes that we've done, that this is one of the main reasons, if not the number one reason, the Cowboys wear their white uniform, even at home, is because this was the first time they won a Super Bowl. And this was the game, that Super Bowl. And so again, he has the hat, and it's class.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, it's the perfect visual situation. Outside, sunlight, two great uniforms, coaches wearing classy suits and hats.
And you see the helmets. We haven't talked about the helmets so much, but that's something to get to in another episode, to look at historical helmets.
Yeah.
And then as we're continuing into the 70s, you've got to at least mention John Madden. That he had different appearances. I mean, he had different look himself, with more traditional, the tie on one side here, and then on the right, this is the game that everyone remembers because that was the first Super Bowl the Raiders won, and it was actually Madden's only Super Bowl with a much more casual look.
Yeah.
And we even have to bring this up because you talk about what people know Madden best for would be announcing with CBS, Fox, or NBC. But then younger people today, all they would think about would be the video game, which he's not even on anymore.
If that, yeah.
If that. He's just a name,
right.
But he was a great coach before he ever went to the booth.
Yeah. Yeah, on the left you have the kind of more going to the office to work type look, and then on the right, more casual, the short sleeve polo shirt.
And I'll say too, when you look back at all the old Super Bowls, they were not always in prime time, so
right.
that's at the end of the game, and you still have the sunlight.
Yeah.
Which I would love to see. It's never going to happen, but I would personally love to see a return to daytime outdoor Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Because of money, because of
halftime
shows and needing the largest possible audiences, it's never going to happen. but we can at least enjoy the highlights of the old Super Bowls, the early years.
Yeah.
And then here's one of the most interesting coaches, Bum Phillips, who is the father of Wade Phillips, and he had a look like no one else. He coached the Oilers. That's one thing to have the hat when you're coaching the Oilers, but he kept the hat even when he was coaching the Saints.
Yeah, it works, and you definitely can't miss the coach when they're wearing a hat that big.
And how about that coat on the left side?
Yeah. Good color coordination for a Saints coach, too.
Man, you're just not going to see that again.
No.
I'm not aware of any coach that ever attempted to pull that look off, but he did.
Yeah.
With both teams, and, well, he was in the South in both cases. Whether it be the Oilers or the Saints, but this was two before our time. And I love the uniforms with the Saints and the Rams there.
Yeah. And the Saints are even wearing black pants, but they pull it off in this case.
And now we have Bill Walsh, and one of his looks from the 80s, and it's very similar actually to the Don Shula look. And one of the, you could say it falls in the category of equipment.
Yeah.
And we're not really going to get into this episode very much, is the headsets.
Yeah.
But you see how headsets changed and have come a long way from the 80s.
Yeah. Large earpiece, large microphone.
Here's Mike Ditka. And two, because it's been so long since he's coached, most would remember Mike Ditka for his time with ESPN, or they'd forget that he played for the Bears himself. He played for the Bears, and also, what's very interesting, we went back and looked at the picture of Landry from that Super Bowl, the Cowboys and Dolphins Super Bowl. Ditka played tight end for the Cowboys in that Super Bowl. But now you have him as the coach of the Bears, and he was known for his sweaters.
And it makes sense. Outside in Soldier Field, that cold, and having different versions, having the full sleeve and the vest, but yet keeping the consistent design in the middle. Gotta appreciate that.
And he wore them inside or outside. I don't have the picture from the Super Bowl that he wore the sweater with, but he was very consistent.
Yeah, the Super
inside, outside the 85 Bears team, he had his own look. Then there's Joe Gibbs, and Joe Gibbs I always think of as he had the hat look.
Yeah.
He consistently wore the hats throughout his career, especially when you're thinking of the Redskins Super Bowl years, 80s, and into the early 90s. And how about that Joe Theismann helmet and what we call the ring face mask?
Yeah. Very simplistic, but very symmetrical and perfect roundness to it.
And more of the sweaters, and I love this picture. This may be my favorite of all the coaches.
Wow.
This majestic George Seifert with the sweater. It really does work.
I've never seen this one before.
And because you had the transition for the 49ers from Walsh to Seifert, and Seifert doesn't get any consideration really as a great head coach because everyone said, well, he just coached Bill Walsh's team and the team was loaded, but he still won Super Bowls anyway.
Maintained it. But yeah, with all these, just the consistent compliment that the coaches' outfits are, in most cases, to the uniforms themselves of the team, exception of the suits, but everything besides the suits, there's some piece of element that ties in very nicely to the actual teams.
And I like how his pants match the team color pants as well, the khaki pants.
Being 49ers fans, I'd love to have a pair of those pants.
Yeah, just khaki pants with slap the 49ers logo on them. There's Jimmy Johnson. So we're getting more into the 90s now, and he had the jackets.
Had the big Apex starter, various brands, multicolored, multi-sectional jackets that really captured the colors of the team well. This one had black, but it still works.
Yeah, you could say they're a little loud. They're sort of that rain jacket look.
Yeah.
I've learned to appreciate them.
Yeah.
It's not the best look, but still a solid look.
Yeah, it still complements the team's uniform a lot better than modern attempts. Or non-attempts.
Of course, he always had the great hair.
Yeah.
It's amazing that his hair hasn't thinned after all these years, considering he's in his early 80s now.
Yeah. He gelled it up and it stayed in place ever since.
And then I have the Bills here.
Good one.
Bill Parcells, and right next to him, Bill Belichick. And those are during the New York Giants seasons. The couple things here is, let's start with Parcells. He has the sweater as well, that 80s sweater look. This was from the 86 season. And then with Belichick, it's an interesting choice that he went with the red jacket for the Giants.
Yeah.
Not blue, the red jacket, which is what I usually would see him wear in the Giants years before he became a head coach, when he was the D coordinator there in New York.
Yeah, there have been a few examples of the more modern decades, defensive coordinators wearing totally secondary or third color tops like this, but back then I think it was even more rare. So yeah, to go all red, definitely know where your defensive coordinator is going to be.
And here they are again, several years later. This is in the 90s now that Parcells is with the Patriots and Bill Belichick was the head coach of the Browns.
The big Apex 90s jacket, I believe. And then very unique sweatshirt.
And this was an interesting one too, was Belichick's had many looks over the years. We're like Shula, one of the longest coaching careers and runs. I'd say the styles changed more with Shula, certainly when you went through the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Yeah.
But Belichick had many unique looks as well, and he brought in, I don't know if he was the first, but he would consistently wear actually the headband. You wouldn't think about it, but he would wear the headband, as you see here, as the head coach of the Browns.
I wasn't really aware of this, so interesting to see And when he wore it with the Patriots, that was not something new or more modern then. That was a long time tradition.
Right. I thought it was new for him
So did I.
with the Patriots, but he did start off with the Browns. And here he is again, a couple of his looks, as you can see the headband with the Patriots, with Brady, and then more of the traditional look, I believe. Yeah, that was a Super Bowl here on the left side. No headgear, you could say, no hat, no headband, no visor, and the khaki pants. As he would wear gray, he'd wear blue. Bill Belichick had a very long and interesting career, whatever you think about him.
Yeah.
And here are a couple more looks to finish up on Belichick. Is he wore the visor at times throughout the years, and of course the most well-known look he has is the hood up, what we would call the Emperor look.
Right. Star Wars, the Emperor, Tom Brady was Darth Vader, we would say, and this was before Star Wars became so mainstream and super popular. We were saying this 10, 15 years ago, but definitely just some visual parallels.
Again, whatever you think about Bill Belichick, I'm going to miss him not being on the sidelines. Maybe he returns to coaching in a year or so.
Yeah.
But the league is different without Bill Belichick. As we were going back and looking at his coaching, some pictures back to the mid-'80s.
Yeah, Bill Belichick and Pete Carroll, we'll miss you.
Right, we don't have Pete in here. I almost put Pete in here, but we'll miss them both. The visors. So I can't think of anyone who's more committed to visors than John Gruden. Is this picture, speaking of the Patriots and Belichick, this picture was the 2001 playoff game in the snow. The snow game between, or it's known as, of course, the Tuck Rule game.
Right.
Between the Raiders and the Patriots. Instead of wearing a hat, Gruden, he still wears the visor.
Yeah.
In the snow. I mean, talk about being committed to wearing a visor.
Yeah, you can see the snow is embedded in his hair, and I'm sure he was very wet on the scalp.
And then later on, there he is again. I believe this is his second time with the Raiders, and part of me couldn't believe he ever actually returned to the Raiders after what happened. I mean, so much of it was between him and Al Davis. But he returned to the Raiders, and he also brought back the visor.
And pretty much the identical one, too.
And I thought you had to include him in here as well, even though he's very controversial, and people have their opinions about him, just like Bill Belichick, for different reasons. And then this was some years ago. This was the 2007 or 8 or so season, where we had the return of the suits. Two coaches decided to bring them back, and it was Mike Nolan and Jack Del Rio.
Yeah.
And did they look good, or did they look good?
They did. And we had firsthand experience because, being 49ers fans, we were watching Mike Nolan, so I got to see a bit more of it than your average fan would.
And it was too bad that really their coaching couldn't back up their appearance.
Yeah.
They were not, neither of them were good head coaches. But if we're just talking about uniforms, hey, 2 thumbs up.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see, well, you wouldn't have to go. We talked about the hats. I'd love to see this look come back. But if we could even see the dress shirt come back, or even the sweaters, I'd be happy. That would be a step in the right direction.
Yeah, if you could have the coaches wear the suit with the throwback uniform week or something, that would be kind of cool to go along with the stadium accessories and cheerleaders and everything else to get the coach in on it too.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah.
But more on this when we get to the NBA. And then there's Jim Harbaugh. And Jim Harbaugh has returned to the NFL. I thought was only fitting to include him. I'm very glad that Jim Harbaugh is back, especially that Belichick and Pete Carroll are gone. We need an interesting head coach again. He was best known for the khaki pants. Usually the all-black look and the khaki pants.
And again, we had first-hand experience, him being the 49ers coach, so we saw it a lot. Very unique look.
And I'm very interested to see what exactly he's going to wear with the Chargers.
You would think the same.
And I felt he should have never left the NFL. Even though he went back to his school in Michigan, he should have stayed in the NFL. Here's a look I never could go along with. It was the Rex Ryan vest.
Yeah.
We talked about good sweaters. We've talked about good vests. This is not a good look.
Yeah. Especially when you have white sleeves coming out and they're really baggy and don't match. Big jacket would be better.
I mean, Ditka made it work, but you still often had the tie on, or, you know, with Rex, it's just, let's just say he was really, let's be honest, he was big. He was big, and on top of it, it makes him look bigger. I'll say that. And the extra baggy sleeves, not a good look for the coaches.
Yeah, we don't like vests in many cases, especially baseball uniforms. Coaches don't work either.
Now we're really going to the present, and this is a coach who ended up getting hired again, Dan Quinn. It's shocking to me he actually got another head coaching job after what happened at Atlanta. It proves that almost anyone could get a second shot.
Yeah.
After the historic collapse in the Super Bowl. And, you know, as the defensive coordinator of the Cowboys, he got far more credit, far more attention, and even far too much criticism just simply because he was with the Cowboys.
Yeah.
But he had the spotlight on him more than most head coaches. And what Dan Quinn did was, in the booth, often you'd see him with the hat turned backwards. And even here, as you can see, on the sideline, the hat turned backwards.
Yeah.
I say it's one thing if you're a player. As a coach, it's totally unprofessional.
Yeah.
I mean, how could someone really take you seriously, and then, again, as a coach, you're trying to be cool? You know, you're 50-something years old, and you have a backwards cap. I mean, we start off with Lombardi and coaches like Landry, and then this is what you had just recently. Is he going to do that as the head coach of the Commanders?
I think I did see a picture of him wearing the backwards hat in one of the early photos with the Commanders, so could be wrong about that. But
I can't imagine he's going to seriously do that as the head coach, but we'll see. And then there's Matt Patricia. And he went with the backwards cap before Dan Quinn, actually.
The first that we noticed.
That's one thing, the backwards cap, and then again, also, if you're a large man, just like Rex, I'm not just talking about big and tall, I'm just talking about you are big, probably shouldn't go with this look. And besides that, the red look is the secondary color. You know, Belichick did it, as we saw, with the Giants.
Just what I was thinking of.
But, man, this, to me, this goes even further.
Yeah. He must have been maybe paying homage to Belichick or something, wearing the red, but dark blue, much better.
That's one thing, but these coordinators are, you know, desperate to get seen when they're looking for another job, so they wear, you know, these alternate colors. But the thing that really drives me up the wall is the backwards hat.
Yeah.
I mean, would you even expect to see a high school coach do that? I wouldn't expect to see a high school coach do that, and then you're having, you know, coordinators do this in the NFL. Not even just in the booth, but actually on the field.
Yeah.
Doesn't sit well with me.
You look more like a video gamer than a coach.
Now we're getting into baseball. And what we've seen in baseball recently, we'll get to the decline. We've seen the decline in the NFL, more casual. We could have done a lot more with how casual coaches have gotten. But in baseball, coaches have become very, very casual. And I was thinking to myself, well, without going too far back, who was someone that wore the uniform and looks like a coach? And the cool thing about baseball is the manager wears the same uniform as the players.
Yeah.
Unlike the other sports.
Yeah.
And I said, Lasorda, Tommy Lasorda, throughout his career, would wear the uniform. It was what was expected. And he did it through the 80s and to the 90s. And that's what I want my manager to look like.
Yeah, it's sharp. It unites you with the team more. And it's just more well-kept looking instead of a baggy, sloppy looking alternative.
And the fact in baseball, too, you get your own number.
Right. You can never see it.
As a coach here. But as much as I don't like the Dodgers, I have to salute Lasorda. But this is the manager of our childhood.
Yep.
Joe Torre. That is what a manager should look like. Because as a manager, you have two options. Either you wear, and these should be the only two options. You either wear the full uniform, or you wear the jacket, but you wear the team jacket. You wear not just any jacket.
Yeah.
You wear the coaches, managers' jacket.
Official, consistent, and classy looking.
Right, and as a coach, it sets you apart from the players.
Yeah.
In one hand, yeah, you can wear the uniform to be matching the players, but if you're wearing the coaches, or I should say, if you're wearing the manager's jacket, they know who you are. They're on the bench, and I can't think of anyone who did better than Joe Torre.
Yeah.
Wearing the manager's jacket. A professional all the way, and everyone took him seriously because he won, and by his appearance as well. It does matter. And there's more Joe Torre, whether it was on the field, in the dugout, wherever you saw him, he said, that's exactly what a manager should be. And here's a good turn back to the 1998 World Series with two of our favorite managers, Joe Torre and Bruce Bochy. And that is the perfect shot of the two of them. Those are your two options right there.
Yeah.
The uniform or the manager's or coach's jacket. So you see the best of both with them. And it's all class all the way. Yankee Stadium, the one that should still stand, the one that they should still play in.
Yeah, the house that Ruth built.
The one that had all the history, the championships, the legends played there for Just another new soulless park with no history. And the pinstripes. It's great to see the pinstripes for the Yankees manager and Bruce Bochy. We're in the minority. We really like that Padres 90s look.
Yeah. It was very solid, and we're probably also in the minority saying we like that mustache.
Yes. Love the mustache all the way. And those are the two most winning managers of our lifetime as well.
Right.
Torre, he won 4 World Series, and then 4 now for Bochy.
Yeah.
And here's more of Bruce Bochy, and he's wearing the uniform in both cases with the pinstripes there, and then also the blue alternate uniform.
Very nice in both cases.
And then you have an interleague game here between the Cardinals and the Yankees. Torre and La Russa together at Busch Stadium. The Busch Stadium that we grew up with.
Yeah.
Not saying the new one isn't good. It's good. Talk about a lot of history and a lot of memories in that ballpark. We love stadiums as well. And that's in both cases, the managers wearing the uniform, and 2 of the best uniforms in the sport.
Yeah.
And that was a big moment with the Yankees going to St. Louis.
Yeah. Firsts, rarities, things that are not so rare or special now, for sure.
And there's Joe Torre at the end of his coaching career. More of the same. And he's wearing the Dodger uniform, and there's no denying the Dodger uniform is one of the very best in baseball.
Yep.
And Buck Showalter, what is he best known for?
Jackets.
That's him early in his career with the Yankees, and then with the Orioles.
He's always very consistent with the jacket. Even with his last appearance with the Mets, he went out of his way to request the equipment team to go out and find him a specific old style jacket just to maintain a better look, because the current options were not at all good enough. Hoodies, pullovers, whatever.
Yeah, we definitely respect the effort he's made with whatever team he's been with during his career. This was one I almost overlooked, was Bobby Valentine. And there you have it, both looks. You have the uniform, though I didn't like the black Mets.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about that before. But it's wearing the uniform right, and then with the Red Sox, he had the jacket.
Yeah.
And there's another manager from past, Stu. Few could get angry like Stu. And that's a great jacket.
Yeah.
I'd love to have one of those.
Consistent with the uniform, just in blue.
Felipe Alou, and I love the Expos. The
Yep.
Expos uniforms, and he's one more example of doing it right in both cases. The home uniform, inside, pinstripes, and then on the road, top step of the dugout, wearing the manager's or coach's jacket.
Yeah.
Looks great.
Great use of color, complements the hat and the uniform.
And this is what we have now. And this isn't the first time we talked about Aaron Boone, but this is just plain unprofessional. This is what I call the getting out of bed bum look. I can't help it.
Yeah, and what can you guess? But they just want to sell more of these hoodies, so they tell the manager to wear them. Or they really just do like them better. But yeah, you look just more like a younger guy.
Just someone off the streets, basically.
Yeah,
you got out of bed and you're off the streets and you came in to watch a game.
Yeah.
And you're the Yankees manager. Okay?
Yeah.
And the Yankees manager should be held to a higher standard. There's an example again, the Dodgers. And I have to tip my cap to Dave Roberts because he is as good as anyone with wearing the team uniform as the manager.
One of the last ones left that consistently wears the uniform. Maybe not every single game, but just about every single game.
The majority, at least.
Yeah.
And no coaches or managers shall be complete without Dusty Baker. He had a very long career with many teams, and he went from team to team, always with success, and ultimately didn't get it till he didn't get the World Series championship until he got to Houston. We started out in San Francisco, and Dusty's look was the wristbands throughout.
Yep.
Here, starting off with the Giants, great look. I love this. Love the shades too.
Yeah.
The shades, the wristbands out there, and as you can see too, this is when you had AL and NL umps.
Yeah.
There.
Right.
So that was at Candlestick Park. That's where he began his career at the Giants, and then he went off to the Cubs. You can see it goes perfectly. The wristbands with the uniform and with the hat. It's his look all the way.
Yeah, and it's a perfect complement to the uniform.
And here he is with the Reds and the Nationals too. He always had the wristbands. And then finally, right as he wrapped up his career with the Astros, still had different wristbands.
And still the uniform.
And the uniform, as you saw that consistency throughout, all these that we had here, was the uniform and the wristbands. And the NBA, Pat Riley. I think of Pat Riley before I think of anyone else. The slicked back hair, the suit, the tie. That's also what I expect out of a coach, the head coach in the NBA. And then I think of him later in his career, and then also think of Jerry Sloan with the Jazz.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what a coach should look like.
All business and business class.
Is it asking too much? I don't think so. And then there's Phil Jackson. Whether it be with the Lakers or the Bulls, same thing. You had the suits, you had the ties, and you had success. Especially that yellow tie of the Lakers. That's a good look.
Nice touch.
And then this is what we have now in the NBA. And this is now what's accepted, is you have the very casual, more like workout look for a coach. And it's not all bad, but my issue with it is it's one thing if they wore these during the regular season. I wouldn't have so much of a problem, but it's all the way through that they're wearing these. It would be nice to see them wear the suit and ties for the playoffs, or at the very least, could we have them return for the final? And just look at the difference here with Steve Kerr. This is what he was when he began at the Warriors, and this is the current look, and this is league-wide. You don't see any coaches that decided we're going back. And Greg Popovich, for an example, someone who's been coaching for so many decades, same thing. This is what you saw and what you expected, and then on the left, this is what you have, the casual look. And really all I'm asking for is, could we just get them to dress up more for the playoffs and the finals?
Or at least turn back games or something.
So that's the coaches show.